All right. Today I have a special guest on our show today, Stephen Michaels of the Digital Currency Institute. And he is going to share with us what attracted him to Bitcoin and how he got started with Bitcoin, and also tell us a little bit more about the Digital Currency Institute.
Sure, you bet. Thanks for having me on, Marnie. And yeah, gosh, Bitcoin, what an awesome adventure this has been in the short 3.5 years that I've been involved. I heard about it from an anonymous email. Someone sent me an email, and they knew I was interested in these kinds of things. I used to be involved in a prior currency called eGold, and so I get this anonymous email, and all it is the Satoshi white paper, and this is 3 years ago of January. And I won't make it a long story, but basically, being a longtime gold and silver bug, I read through that white paper, and that's all they sent me, so I really didn't have any other links or anything else to go on. And I looked at it, and it looked very intriguing, but I was, I had kind of some old thinking in my head, and I thought, gee, I don't see any gold or silver around here, so I don't know what to think of it, so I set it aside. And I think Bitcoin was trading about $1 at that time. Of course, I didn't even know it was being traded. I didn't even know what it was. I just saw a paper about it. So I ignored it and didn't think anything else of it until 6 months later when, a lot of people have been in Bitcoin a while. This was really when it kind of went mainstream. And there was an article I read on, I believe it was Gawker magazine, and it was entitled Meet the Underground website where you can buy any drug imaginable with this new currency called Bitcoin. And so that caught my attention, not because of I have any interest in drugs, but I, from a freedom and asset protection standpoint, I looked at that and I thought, gee, if these guys can trade freely with one another without third-party interference, and they're using a currency that's enabling them to do that, I thought this is something I need to know about. And so that started the obsession that's been lasting for over 3.5 years. So that's the background on how I heard about Bitcoin.
Wonderful. And so I met you, how long ago has that been now? That was earlier.
Just a few months, I think. So maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I think. It's flying. So, in Bitcoin years, it's probably 500 years. So I don't know.
And I met you at the San Diego meetup there.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, about a year ago, I actually started a local meetup group, and there were a couple of them going at the time. And all of them just had a few people. It wasn't really quite as popular as it is now, and we started getting a few people together, and I met with the other meetup group organizers, and we combined them all, and now we have over 300 members in our meetup group, and that's how we got to meet. So that was fantastic, and a lot of neat projects are coming out of that meetup group here in San Diego. I think people don't know it yet, but San Diego is going to go really big real soon. Because we're behind the scenes getting a ton of businesses set up to take Bitcoin. So we're not going to have a Bitcoin Boulevard. We're going to have a Bitcoin City here in San Diego. So.
Absolutely. We definitely want to do that. So tell me how you got the idea to start the Digital Currency Institute and where you see yourself going with that and where you see the movement going with that.
Sure, you bet. Well, one of the things I saw really quickly was this huge knowledge gap between people who are obsessed, like you and I, with Bitcoin. We spend way too much time on it, and then everybody else. And so this knowledge gap there needed to be a way to bridge that knowledge gap. And because we're dealing with money, it's something that can be abused. And I thought, what, we need to create a way for people to demonstrate their knowledge and also their commitment to a code of ethics, and then have the opportunity to take those skills to help onboard the masses and show them how to better manage their money. And so that's where the idea for the Digital Currency Institute came out, and it was derived from, I started acting as a quote-unquote Bitcoin consultant, and I thought, we need to create a nice third-party institution that can help validate for other people who want to provide the service, because we're going to need an army of Bitcoin consultants out there to go out and help onboard the rest of the world. So, I mean, I think we maybe only have, I don't know, maybe 100,000 users in Bitcoin worldwide, and you know, we've only got 6 billion other people to onboard. So there's a huge demand in the consulting area. So we created Digital Currency Institute to primarily at this point just to simply certify people. You know, to become a Bitcoin consultant, you have to pass an exam, and we test you on the history and a little bit of economics and obviously everything about Bitcoin. And if you can pass that test and become a member of the Institute, we can certify you, and now you can have that third-party credential. And you know, one of the questions people ask is, well, what gives you the authority to make someone a certified Bitcoin consultant? Well, anybody can do that. And I hope lots of people do that. One of the things we're trying to do with the Digital Currency Institute is we want to be a free market solution. So we don't desire or care to get any sort of state sanction. We exist purely on our ability to deliver. And so we have a code of ethics, we have membership dues, we have a directory. So if you become a Bitcoin consultant with us, you can get listed in our directory, and it gives you a nice credential you can show when you go out and provide services to people for things, all things Bitcoin. And so you don't have to be a specific independent Bitcoin consultant. You can be an expert in whatever field you're in, but now you can add this Bitcoin expertise to your resume and this credential to your resume, and you can be that go-to person for Bitcoin inside your industry. And really help onboard that industry, and of course have lots of profit opportunities with that. So that's the long answer for that.
Oh, wonderful. You know, one thing that really attracted me to it was I really liked your code of ethics. Do you happen to have that handy there, and do you want to kind of share the idea behind that? Because that's something, it's important to me. If I'm going to be, you know, putting my name behind something, I want to make sure that it has a code of ethics, so to speak, right? I want to make sure that it's something that's going to help the world rather than hinder the world. And I really like that you put that up there. That was important to me.
Right. I'm glad you asked about that, because an average passerby on the site, if they go read that, it might seem a little strange to them, but it's a real strong code of ethics, and it's very simple too. It's basically, you know, as a Bitcoin consultant, you agree to respect the life, liberty, and property of other people. And so money is a natural extension of our own life, liberty, and property. You know, property is a natural extension of our very existence. You know, when we are born, we consume, and so we consume property, but then we also create property, or we create value and we trade it. And Bitcoin is just a manifestation of that property. And so it's real important that you know, if we want our life, liberty, and property to be respected, we have to respect others. And so our code of ethics is, you know, centered on that. And then from there you can extend to you know, things like you know, never touching your client's money, never touching their private keys, and making sure you're you know, compliant with any other laws that apply to you. Naturally, we believe that you know, we have the natural law, which is you know, created by nature, and then everything else is kind of a perversion. But we do live in a society where there's man-made laws that we have to deal with, so we encourage everyone to make sure they're in compliance with that. Just for your own protection, when you're dealing with clients out there, you can get in a lot of trouble, especially when we're talking about money. So we discourage anything that has to do with touching their money. We want to be more as an advisor, not a guarantor or an investor pitch person. You know, we're not out pitching investments or anything, but we're just helping onboard the masses, helping them to understand the technology, and that's that. So.
That's wonderful, and you make a good point there. I'll tell you a funny story that I had back in my computer consulting days. a lot of my clients were very wealthy clients, and I happened to go to this one gentleman's home this one day, and he was in his late 70s. And actually, how I ended up there was his Merrill Lynch guy had called me and booked the appointment with me. And the Merrill Lynch guy had actually paid me and everything to go out to this client. And he says this is a very special client. He's a little bit eccentric, and so there's, that we've vetted you as somebody in the community that we think that we can trust. So that's why we're sending you there. And that's really all he would tell me. He wouldn't tell me anything else. And so I went over there and helped him to log in to his Merrill Lynch account on his Macintosh computer. And I guess he was having challenges with that. And so as he's doing this, he gives me the password to this Merrill Lynch account. And I log in, and at first of all, I was like, don't tell me the password. But it was already done. It came out of his mouth, right? And we log in there, and there's $7 million in his Merrill Lynch account. And I'm like, I do not want to have access to this information. And so as soon as I was done with that client, I called up the Merrill Lynch guy after I'd helped him. And he says, I said, listen, I need a good stiff drink right now. I just logged in there. I have access to this. I'm like, you seriously need to change this right now. I do not like to have access to any of that information because who knows, maybe I get compromised in some way and somebody, steals my son and blackmails me or something like that. I don't know. But I don't want to have this information. And he's like, don't worry. He's like, so we change the password all the time, and he has this one password that he uses, and we set it back when he needs to use it. But otherwise, we reset it all the time. He's like, we only let him in, we know the window of time that he's allowed in, and then we reset it to something else. I'm like, I still don't like that. I'm like, you need to get a better system for him. And so I was, I ended up, went out and had a good stiff drink and forgot the password. And I did get a call up a couple of months later. He's like, we have implemented a better system to handle our password structure. And I'm like, you have no idea how happy that makes me. This is really important stuff when we're talking about security, and especially the security of wealth, right?
Absolutely.
And having ethical standards when you're dealing with clients, I think is something that's really important. Just like you're thinking about your own life, liberty, and property, right? I wouldn't want, anybody having access to my information, so why would I want to compromise somebody else like that? So that was something that was really important to me.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's a delicate line that we have to traverse there because you are exposed to very sensitive information, and so it is something that you got to be very careful with. And so one of the things that I like to do when dealing with clients is I explain everything I'm doing, and but I depending on the client and the situation, but I show them the steps I take and why I'm doing it. And I explain how they protect their Bitcoin wallets, and I let them do the passwords. I let them do it on machines that are secure and safe, and I help them get the secure machines, or I show them tools they can use, and I also tell them, this is cash. This is something you need to be very careful with. But yeah, there's a whole generation out there of tremendous wealth, mostly baby boomers and the higher end of, the older end of the baby boomers who, kind of caught the tail end of this information age, and they're not real comfortable. Like our kids can run circles around us, but our parents really have a hard time, and they control a lot of the wealth. And I think as Bitcoin grows, I think it'll continue to grow, and it'll suck in capital from the rest of the universe, and the value of other currencies are going to drop as the value of Bitcoin rises. And so there's a need out there to help this older generation protect their wealth and conserve their wealth. Now, one thing that we can't do is be investment advisors or guides or anything like that. So all we can do is point out the benefits and let them make their own decisions. And but this is a generation that it either needs someone to help show them the way, or they're going to have to figure it out themselves, or they're going to get left behind. And if they're like a lot of retired people, they're sitting on government bonds as their retirement, and there's a great risk of those being nationalized and devalued tremendously. So, you talk to any. I was doing a presentation the other day for a business group. Part of my visual aid is I handed out two 50-cent pieces. One of them was dated 1964, and the other one was 1965. And I asked him what the difference between the two coins was, and I don't think anyone realized what the difference was. But those who know, the 1964 coin is made out of 90% silver, and it takes roughly, I think it's 14 of the 1965 coins, and I take that back. It was in the 70s. It was 1970s. It takes 14 of those 1970 coins, 50-cent pieces, to buy one of those 1964, because of the fact that they moved away from a commodity-based currency into cheap metal, and they devalued the currency. So that's a 97% loss in purchasing power. And so I have grandparents who would take, physical dollars, put it under their mattress, and guess what? If they sat on that for the last 30 years, they lost 97% of their purchasing power. So there's a huge market there that needs our help.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it is really important that people are educated and certified, because there are going to be a lot of bad actors out there. We're already seeing malware and keyloggers and things like that. And these people really, they're at the tail end of getting onto the internet, right? Yes. And they're not technologically savvy. They're not password savvy, right? And we really need to, that's one of the reasons that I got into and I'm, starting to produce our guides and courses, is that I really want to make sure that, we help those people along that need our help. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people out there who, I got it, I don't need any help. But also, I've seen some of those people who were like, oh, I got it, I don't need any help, and, one of them was actually a charity recently, and they had their Bitcoin stolen, and the thing is that maybe they do need some help and some assistance in really understanding how to secure their Bitcoins. And, consultants and educators, I think that that's a really important thing going forward. Just boldly moving into it without any understanding there does, it can put you at risk.
Absolutely, and I want to mention one other really neat opportunity for people who become certified Bitcoin consultants or digital currency consultants, is that you can very quickly position yourself as an expert in either your local community or in your profession. And because you go through our certification process, if you're as obsessed as you are or I am, and you've been following this for a while, you'll have no problem passing our exam. And so you can now take that passion and go leverage that. So one of the things you can do with that credential is it helps you be that local expert in your area. So I know you've given presentations to different organizations. I think you just booked one, or you just finished one. Where did you present recently?
Oh, Torrey Pines Rotary Club.
Okay,
yeah.
Excellent.
I did actually. I did a short little introduction to them, And they've now asked me back on May 14th to actually do a full hour-long presentation for them. And again, you're talking about that older demographic of people that are, you know, are even just getting into smartphones, right?
Well, and you know, it's interesting because you could actually end up being a, you know, as a consultant. I mean, there is some older generation that are very smart and very wealthy, and they're smart enough to know that sometimes maybe someone other than themselves it would be an asset to their team. And so, as a Bitcoin consultant, there's a lot of opportunities that open up. I mean, you could work for a private office that helps manage wealth for people. You could be their Bitcoin security expert. You can, as an educator, as you mentioned, the point is you may not see a direct compensation, but as an expert in your community or in your profession, you just go out and start talking about it, offer to give presentations for free. That's going to expose you to so many new networking opportunities, business opportunities that you may not have even thought about. So even though you may not make money directly as a consultant for a fee, it's going to open you up to so many other things. So if say you're an expert in the insurance industry, you have an expertise there. Now you can take your Bitcoin expertise, be that recognized person, and now you can be the one bringing Bitcoin-related services to your industry, and now you've just made yourself more valuable to that industry. And so yeah, one of the things that we're doing right now that I'm doing is I'm going to local business networking luncheons and breakfasts, and I just offer free presentations on Bitcoin. Everyone I see, I baptize them by sending them a little bit of Bitcoin. And
we're going to teach everybody little piece by piece by giving them money.
I can spend an hour explaining to them about Bitcoin, or I can just say, hey, pull out your smartphone, click a few buttons, and I'm going to send you some Bitcoin, and that does so much better for you. And now you have a conversation going, and they're owners. They have some ownership now. But I predict, you know, I've been doing this a lot in the San Diego area. I predict we'll have, I don't know, 30, 40 new businesses within 30 days. And, you know, this afternoon, right after we get done with this presentation, I'm meeting with a friend who owns 2 gas stations in the county. And these are very busy, successful gas stations. And we'll have him set up within a couple of days. And
I don't use gas anymore.
Yeah.
My electric car.
That's right. You got the electric car. Great.
I'll tell everybody else about that.
That's right. Yeah. So, but anyway, the point is I really see a groundswell of interest here. And I think we're only a few months away from seeing another huge wave of adoption, and you'll see it in the price. You know, we've got New York exchanges that I think are just right around the corner. I think once that happens, you'll see a huge influx of capital, more media exposure, and businesses are going to be fighting to get some of those Bitcoins and have that new business that comes to them.
Absolutely. And, you know, on Twitter the other day, I was going back and forth with some people, and Christoph Atlas made a good point. He said that by getting certified, it really helped you, you know, people to know that you knew what you were talking about if, for instance, you were new to the scene, right?
Right.
Where people who have been around in the Bitcoin world for the last 3, 4, 5 years, they've got street cred, right? And so for a newer person, it definitely kind of helps them get a leg up so that they can say that, oh, you know, I actually do know what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely, and you bring up a great point, because someone can go through our Digital Currency Institute and go through the study guide that we have, and then a lot of the tools that you're producing, and they can become an expert really quickly, and now they're on a level playing field with some people who've been around. But now you have the benefit of that third-party validation. It's not just you proclaiming you're an expert, but it's some you know, disinterested third party that vetted you to a certain degree and tested your knowledge, and it's a real third-party validation, and it helps you. The other thing that I want to mention, though, about the Institute is I saw, when we started this recently, that that a lot of people were losing or not getting the entire message of what the original origins of Bitcoin were. And the origins of Bitcoin were very revolutionary. They're focused on creating a financial system outside the existing structure. And there's, freedom is hard written into the code of Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I tell people it's regulated by the most regulated things in the world, and that's math and markets. And it doesn't need any more regulation, So, it's not regulated by the whims of politicians and central bankers. It's regulated by hard math and the brutality of the free market. The market will decide if it's valuable or not. And so I saw that there needed to be a roadmap for people to really understand and properly understand where these historical roots came from. So when you download our free study guide or Bitcoin guide on the site, you can go back and read a lot of the early cypherpunk papers that really highlight why this is such an important thing for individual liberty and freedom. And I think that message gets lost today when a lot of people are talking about how it's just a neat way to transact for cheaper fees. Yeah, that's a great benefit, but at a deeper level, this is truly revolutionary technology that gives power back to the individual, and it's an enabler to help people, if they use it correctly, to achieve a better life. And so it kind of cracks me up that a lot of the new entrepreneurs coming in are looking for ways to turn Bitcoin back into just another traditional payment system using the old ways, right? This is a whole new world, and people are trying to marry it back into the existing system, and not anything wrong with that, but it kind of gets away from the original purpose. And I'm quite frankly, I'm surprised that the existing financial system has been so tolerant of Bitcoin so long, because this really is their kryptonite. They're going to have to adapt or die, and maybe that's what they're doing. They're just adapting to it because they know they can't beat it. So.
And they're adapting in a way that I think they're doing the best with what they understand. And because I work on the compliance side. One of the compliance companies is my client. And so, I've been talking with him and helping understand, from their viewpoint and their vision, right, their lens on the world and the way they view the world. They're trying to put it within their vision, right? And so I think rather than, like, I see a lot of people getting really upset, like I've seen people get really upset when these regulators come in and try to regulate it. And I think rather than getting upset, right, it's that it's like, here's how I would explain it. So if, okay, this is a perfect example, right? If I go to France and I try to speak French, the French get really upset, right? Because you just butcher it, and the French hate their language being butchered, okay? So the hardcore libertarians are kind of like the French. They just hate it being butchered, right? But you go to other countries in the world, and say maybe Spanish or something, and you totally botch it up, and they're just appreciative that you're trying to talk their language, right? So that's the thing, is that we kind of have to give them a little bit of slack, because they have a whole different lens on the world. They have a whole different view about what it is they're trying to do, and they're trying to do the best with what they're trying to do too. And so that's what I kind of hope to achieve too with some of my education, is helping to educate people who don't have that freedom lens, right? So maybe they need some help in that area in understanding, well, what does liberty really mean? Because they've probably been, kind of brainwashed in their own ways of, the old structure. And rather than get mad at them, how about instead we be nice to them, and we help, you can catch more what is it? More bees? No, flies with honey, right?
Yeah. Yes, and I am definitely one of those hardcore libertarians, and you're right. We are sometimes our own worst enemies,
Oh,
and yeah, and we have to look back at our process of how we arrived at our current view of the world, and recognize it didn't happen overnight. You know, it was a series of events that got us to the position we're in, and you're right. There's a lot of people out there that if you just simply set them up a Bitcoin wallet, and then and you don't even have to preach philosophy to them. You just do that, and it's going to enable them to do a lot of things more freely than they've ever done before. And when the state starts trying to take that away from them, then they'll maybe have an eye-opening experience where they realize that, okay, you know, now I kind of understand what freedom of finance really means, you know. So yeah, we don't have to ram it down anyone's throat. The state will do it for us.
there you go. Fabulous. Well, I really appreciate your time with us today. And, going back to you're talking about the currency and everything, my new model is in mathematics I trust. Right? God's been good to me, but God's been bad to me too, right? And I'm a technologist, and technology, I tell you, has changed my life more than anything else. And if anybody really sits down and thinks about what technology's done for them and what it can do for them, I'll give you a little quick example. You know, I went from driving a Hummer, an H3 Hummer, a small Hummer. It wasn't a big Hummer. It got good gas mileage, 21 miles per gallon, right? But my gas costs were about $500 a month, and I switched to an electric car, and now my energy costs are $500 a year. Okay, you tell me if technology has not made my life better.
And that's a lot of money you can put into Bitcoins, right?
Absolutely. It's going into Bitcoin. Thank you for your time today. So how can somebody, what is the process? Tell us how somebody can actually become a certified Bitcoin consultant. I noticed that you trademarked that. I was happy about that too.
Yes. So what we did is, I want to address the trademark issue a little bit because, that's a point of contention as well for a lot of people. And so what we do is we take the philosophy of first in use, and that's how a lot of trademarks are recognized. So we do that, but we also use it defensively. So we didn't actually file a formal trademark. We just established the first in use. But you know what? We don't care. People can use that term as well, and we're nonviolent people. I think the credibility of our institution and the quality of the people who become certified will speak for itself. So we don't seek any violent protection of any trademarks or anything like that. So I actually removed the actual trademark symbol from the site, but people can use it if they like because we do have first in use. And but so how do you get started? Really, it's pretty easy. On our site, you can download the study guide, and you can just simply shoot me an email or go through the site, through our system, and say, hey, I want to take the quiz, see if I can pass it to be a certified consultant. And many of you listening to this video have been around long enough that you should have no problem passing it. It's not a cakewalk unless you're obsessed like we are, but it does have a high standard, and it's a little fun too. I think if you've been around a while, there's a lot of inside jokes in those questions. So
I noticed.
But anyway, so you can just take the quiz for free and see if you have what it takes to be certified, and you can retake it as often as you want. We don't want to restrict anyone. We want people who are knowledgeable that can go out and help get the other 6.9 billion people into Bitcoin. So you can take the quiz for free, take it as many times as you like, and if you decide that's what you want to do, you want to be officially recognized, you just contact us through the website and let us know your desires, and we'll check your test scores, and then you just pay the membership fee, which is $275 a year. And what that does is it helps us keep the whole thing running and rolling, and agree to be bound by the Code of Ethics, and we'll provide a link for you on our site, so we can link to your website, your Twitter feed, or just an email address, or we can keep your name off the website if you prefer. It doesn't matter. And but it gives you that tool now and that certification, and it's really just as easy as that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and I was happy when I saw you come out with the new logo there. I like that, and I understand that you're going to be working on doing some stuff with how the course is produced as well.
Absolutely, and thanks to you. So we're excited to have new educational materials, and if I could make a quick plug too. If someone likes to have a steady stream of interesting things on Bitcoin, I recommend they follow our Twitter feed, which you can get right from the website at digitalcurrencyinstitute.org. And also, we are going to announce probably in the next week a global online Bitcoin conference. And we've already got some major speakers lined up. And so for those of you on this webinar, you can get a sneak peek at the promo site. And the URL is GOBC, which stands for Global Online Bitcoin Conference. So GOBC.co. So GOBC.co. And you can see some of the speakers we have lined up. We're still adding several others. And the cool thing about this conference is it's all online. So we'll be doing live webinars like this. We'll have Q&A. We'll have ways to access the speakers. And we've got a lot of rebellion built into that conference. I think people will have fun. So.
That's great. Wonderful. Well, thanks for coming on the show today.
You bet. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Bye-bye.